Have you ever thought about what the last 16 days of your life would look like? For my husband, they were spent in hospice. Initially, I thought I could do it all and be his caretaker and nurse till those last days. We thought maybe he would stay at home, but it got to a point where it was too much. The symptoms he was having, he needed to go into palliative sedation. So we sent in the request and he went to hospice. He got in our top choice of hospices really quick. It was a miracle and I'm so grateful. There were some of the most challenging moments of my life in that place, but also some of the most beautiful. And I'm so grateful for the amazing staff that were there. Grateful for the way that they made the space feel like home and that I could choose artwork to be in the space. That's why I want to give back. I'm going to create a painting using the canvas behind me to donate to the hospice, the Foothills Country Hospice in Okotoks. So I hope you enjoy. First of all, I just want to say thank you for being here. Whether you've been here for a while or you're new, thank you so much for checking out my channel. I really appreciate that. The support means the world to me. So getting the canvas prepped, getting my hair out of the way, we're just going to start with a base. This is just to get the canvas kind of ready so we don't have any white bits showing as we paint. So giving that first coverage as well as toning the canvas as my easel starts moving away. Toning it does help to kind of deal with the whole bright canvas issue with tones. So by adding a color on first, now it doesn't have to be like raw sienna like this, but by adding a color first, it just helps to kind of deal with brights and darks as you go. So kind of finding a mid-tone to start with can be really helpful. I'd really like to try gray. I really would. I think that would be really fun. Try a different color. I always tend to do this same kind of warm tone, and I think it'd be fun to try something different. So anyways, you might have parts of your painting that can show through. Maybe, maybe not. But regardless, it kind of helps you to get the right tone. So right now what I'm doing, my canvas is already, covered now, and I'm just taking a brush with my reference image in hand and kind of practicing, I guess. It's almost like a practice swing. You're kind of, okay, where are things going to go? It gives you some idea before you put that paint on. You don't have to do that, but it can be a bit helpful just mentally to prepare yourself to add that paint on, which can be sometimes a scary step depending on where you're at in your artistic journey. So I just start adding in the horizon line, this dark tone. So I want to tell you about this picture. So this particular reference image is from a photo that I took at hospice. So while I was there, while my husband was there. And yeah, so it was one morning, such beautiful sunrise, and I went out, and I can't help it. If there's a beautiful sunrise, I have to take a photo. And out I went. They have this gorgeous little balcony area facing west. And well, I guess it's not quite west. It's more facing south. So you get kind of both sunrise and sunset. It's pretty cool. So I was able to capture the sunrise and enjoy that and appreciate this beautiful sky. And yeah, a bit of the rolling hills in there as well. How fun is it to have kind of an orange background and then throw on some bright blue, just total opposite color, just amazing. The only issue with that could be making sure you do cover it, or if you're using anything that has not an opaqueness to it, then you're going to maybe be affected by the background color. So that's one thing to consider when you're doing a background color, I suppose, depending on how you paint. If you paint really thick, it won't matter, but if you paint quite thin, you might be dealing with some of that. And painting certain colors over top of other colors can be a challenge. If you have like a red and then you're trying to paint over that, sometimes you will be affected by that. Your paint will be affected by that, even if it's dry. So you might have to do more layers and all that kind of thing. But I've got quite a bit of a thick paint that has a lot of opacity to it, and I've added white. Whenever you add white, it does help, because oftentimes white is quite opaque. And especially if you really want to cover it, use a white gesso. So I was feeling like my blue was a little dark, so I'm adding in a lighter blue at this base. Now this part can actually take a bit longer than you expect, depending on the size, obviously, of your canvas. So when you're working on a larger canvas, this is like a decently big canvas, like medium to big canvas. It takes a little longer to cover, even using quite a large brush. This is like a 3-inch brush, and it, could take a little time to cover all of that, depending also how wet your paint is. And that's why sometimes I will, spray my actual canvas with some water. So with having water on hand to spray can be helpful too. Now, in hindsight, it might have been a great idea to put a little tape strip there, but I'll be doing that later on. For now, it's just a quick kind of base, I guess, but it can be helpful to tape, get that nice horizon line, especially when you're looking at the distance. You're going to want a nice straight line. When it's something, there might be cases where you don't need to, or you want kind of that not perfect line across. And it is rolling hills, so it might be okay. But when you look at the painting, it's probably best to have a nice straight line. Here's where the fun comes. Yes, I love working on skies. They're so fun. This is what excites me about this whole piece is this is the sky. Like some people don't paint just a sky, that's just their background. But for me, it's like this is the subject matter, is the sky. It's so beautiful the way the clouds reflect color and everything, and just the moment doesn't last very long. It's these special moments, which is really perfect for this whole piece, what this piece is about. So currently I'm adding in kind of the bright light areas, so the areas where the sky is the lightest, and bringing that kind of, it's like this peachy tone that I'm starting with. And it's going to give me a bit of a base again. So each layer that I'm building on, I'm considering the fact that I'm going to probably have to do another layer on top of that just to cover the background and build it up. We're not doing a paint by numbers here. We're not, drawing out every little thing and then painting that color exactly as it's going to be. We're building on with layers. So that's how I like to paint often. Not always, but that's my typical way of painting with acrylics, is these layer upon layer situations, which I think is pretty normal. Hey, if you're an acrylic painter and you paint differently, that's okay. I consider myself to be a self-taught painter, even though I have a Bachelor of Arts. It's funny how you don't necessarily learn how to paint or draw in an art class. So just pull it back a bit so you can kind of see my reference image there. Just gorgeous kind of peachy pink yellow tones. And then you kind of have this area of like purpley blue in the sky as well. And yes, my blue currently is not exact, and that's part of it too. You don't have to follow your reference image exactly, and clearly I'm not, but it's a reference. It's something to guide you, and then you go with the flow a little bit too. You go with your kind of gut instincts, how you're feeling, and it's not always right. It's not always better than the reference image, but that's just kind of the process. So yeah, I had a lot of fun building in this pink kind of tone, the coral tones. Coral is one of my favorite colors. So again, this is a lot of fun. And then when I come into some of the cloud areas, I'm almost dry brushing it, just lightly with a brush, and then adding in a medium that, it's kind of the gloss medium that extends the paint. And it kind of slow dries it as well. So it kind of makes it a glaze rather than kind of giving it less opacity, which can be helpful in these areas where kind of you want like these wispy looking clouds. Okay, here's an example of building up the layers. So I'm building up this color to make it more vibrant. I do really love vibrancy and boldness in color, as you can see. And that's part of that moment in the sunrise or sunset that is kind of magical, where it's only there for a minute or two, and where it kind of reaches that climax of brightness of color, boldness of color. And it's like you just like hold your breath for that moment almost. And I guess that's pretty indicative of the experience that I had in hospice too. It's kind of these barely there moments, and just, yeah, moments where it's, in a way, it feels like forever. Especially you're there for, I don't know, people are there on different lengths of days. And one lady I met, she'd been there for like months, with her husband. And I can't imagine that would be so hard. I was there 16 days, before my husband passed. And that was long, but also it's also kind of fleeting. It's like that sunset thing. It's like, yeah, although sunsets, I don't ever feel like, oh, so that part doesn't really connect. But yeah, it's quite the experience, being in this place. But it was really beautiful. It was a really beautiful place, as you can see by the gorgeous, this was not a one-off either. I experienced multiple days where the sunrises were just incredible. Just a quick note with the paint that I'm doing here. So I used a dioxazine purple mixed with some blue, and then I was mixing in some reds as well. But then I felt like it was just a little too strong. So that's why I threw in some white. And I like to have a few different colors on my palette as I go. And I don't usually have my paint colors pre-mixed. I kind of like to mix as I go, and I don't know if that's the best practice, but that's how I like to paint. It's part of the joy of painting for me, is mixing the color as I go, and having to remix colors. And if I want to use that color throughout the piece, I better use it now while I have it mixed. Otherwise, I might not be able to recreate it exactly. This part was really freeing and fun, creating these wispy clouds. And this is just part one. I'm not finishing the piece quite yet. I want to take my time and make sure it's just right for, even though it's, you're donating it. I want it to be really heartfelt, and that as I paint, I'm thinking about who might be able to appreciate and enjoy this piece, in such a difficult time in their life. So whatever loved one they'll be kind of with, or whether it's a person that's in hospice kind of in their last days, it's, I want them to be able to have something that brings them a bit of joy. And I don't know, there's definitely the artwork that was in the space made a difference in some way. Like it had some level of impact on my experience. And I know that art can have that, you can be a powerful experience to have like original artwork in a space. You think about the whole process of it being made and everything like that. It's so interesting to me. So that's some thoughts that I have as I'm working on this, as well as just, visually trying to make it pleasing. But I am thinking about the whole experience that I had and that others might have as I put this together. And I really want it to be special for many, many people. And yeah, so this is just the beginning of it, just partway through. And I'm excited to share the rest of this piece and create it. So thank you guys so much for being here, and I appreciate your comments. If you have any experiences you want to share, love to hear about them. And I hope you'll stick with me so you can see how this comes about, what it looks like in the end, and also the reveal once I share it with the hospice will be really fun as well. So stick around hit that subscribe button if you've enjoyed this, and give me a thumbs up. And we'll see you for part 2.